Hello everybody, I am Dustin Breau, and today we're going to look at a few techniques on Luminar 4 to make your photos look better. Today I have chosen this shot right here, which I took in Fort Lauderdale several years ago on an iPhone, and I'm using this example off of phone because we're going to go through a couple things to, once again, make your photos look a little bit better. The three things that we're going to go over today, number one is our shot itself. In this case, I know that I'm going to replace the sky, so I'm going to want a sky replacement that goes from near to far. As you can see in this photo right here, the sky is from near to far. We are taking it on a angle of less than 40 degrees. Anything greater than 40 degrees, and you're going to want to use a sky image that doesn't have as much depth or is somewhat flat. Like if you were to take a picture of your ceiling or you were to take a picture of your wall, you'd be shooting a flat image, and that's what we'd be looking for if this image was taken at greater than a 40-degree angle. The other thing we're going to look at in this photo is where our light is coming from. In this case, our light is coming from left to right. That's something else you're going to want to take into consideration when you're putting your sky in there. You're going to want to look for a sky replacement that either has a left to right lighting or right to left, and I'll tell you why that right to left is going to work, and I'll show you why it's going to work in just a little bit. One of the other things that a lot of people have been asking in Luminar 4 is, how do we put a reflection? In this case, we have water, so we want a reflection of the sky that we're going to be putting in there. Once I replace the sky, I want the water to reflect what we see in the sky. Otherwise, it's just not going to look, well, it's not going to look realistic. So let's get started. First and foremost, my photo here is pretty drab, pretty bland. It was grabbing a lot of the sky to balance everything out. The sky, the highlights here in the boat. It's dark. We don't have a lot of detail. The colors are fairly bland. So let's get started in our essentials area of Luminar 4, and I always start in the lighting area because that's where I want to start bringing things out of my photo. I'm going to boost up my shadows a little bit, and then I notice over here in this boat the highlights, they're blown out a little bit, so I'm going to try and see if I can't recover them, drop it down by about 20, and that looks pretty good. I kind of like that. And we want a little bit of this smart contrast, which is another AI feature of Luminar 4 that does a really good job. I'm going to take a look at that, and it brought me down quite a bit. You notice that it brought everything down quite a bit in the dark areas. So I'm going to go into my advanced settings, and you'll notice over here my whites don't start until right about there. So I'm going to bring my white point in a little bit, and I'm going to bring the mids up just a bit and drop that contrast just a hair. That's looking pretty good for me right now. I'm kind of liking that overall, and I'll probably come back and I'll adjust it. Now, the AI enhancement, this helps you replace the sky. At least I've found that it helps me replace the sky a little bit. So I'm going to add a little bit of accent to my photo, around 25. And then I'm going to bring the AI sky enhancer up, which is going to help the replacement a little bit. I'm going to probably put it at about 25 too. Let's see where our start and our finish. Yeah, we're getting there. I'm getting there. Now I'm going to jump into my color. Now in my color, I'll notice over here that I have a little bit of a color cast. You can see it, a little bit of cyan over here, and I want to get rid of that. I'm going to pull it up to about 50 and see what happens. Let's take a look here. That, and I'm going to shut it off and bring it back on. Yeah, I took that cyan out of there just a little bit. I'm going to bump up my vibrance just a hair and my saturation just a little bit. So now my trees are starting to pop. I've got the greens and the trees that are starting to come out quite a bit. A little bit of color in the water that's coming out even, and over here in the boat. So overall, I'm kind of liking what I'm seeing. Now, one of the reasons that I brought in an iPhone photo into this is most all phones are noisy. Their sensors are small, so you get a lot of noise in your photo. So I'm going to bring up my luminosity, and I'm going to take it to about 50, which I found for iPhones is pretty good without making them all kind of muddled. So now take a look at my before and after. Right now, that looks pretty good. Let's move on to the creative portion where we're going to replace the sky. Okay, we are in the creative section where we can replace the sky with the AI sky replacement. And you know what? I'm going to jump back a little bit real quick. And I want you to remember that we messed around with this AI enhance in the essentials. Now, I found that by boosting these a little bit, depending on the type of photo, and it's something you're going to have to play with yourself, it actually helps the AI in Luminar pick the edges. Pick the edges of your photo and how to replace your sky a little bit better. So, as I told you, I use my own photos. So I'm going to go down here to Load Custom Sky Image, and I'm going to get into my own skies. These are some of the ones I've been using lately. And let's take a look. I think this is, yeah, this is the one that I like for this sky replacement. You'll notice in this photo, my lighting is coming from right to left. And as I replace it into my photo, my right to left, oh geez, wow, that is way up there, isn't it? Well, let's bring that horizontal position down to maybe about 70 and see where we're at. That's not too bad. I don't mind this mountain in the background. It's a little unrealistic for the area. So let's drop me down to about 74. Maybe we'll keep a little bit of that in there. Yeah, you can see a little bit. Okay, now, remember, our photo, if we're not thinking about the sky, now our photo has light coming from left to right. That's why the lighting on the boat, the sun is hitting this side of the boat and not that side of the boat. But now we're looking up at our sky replacement, and in the sky replacement, the lighting is coming from right to left. You always want to pay attention to this when you're doing the sky replacement. So what I'm going to do is come over here to Advanced Settings, and right here under Sky to Focus is Flip Sky. So now we have our lighting coming from left to right. And you'll notice overall, really after messing with that setting in the essentials, my line looks pretty good all the way around this photo. It looks pretty darn good. One of the only things I don't like about this sky right now is it doesn't really match my scene. I'm going to bring a little bit of haze in there because, well, it's a humid condition. So your skies are going to be a little bit hazy. I want my temperature, I want it a little warmer. So I want my clouds a little bit warmer. So maybe around 7. Take a look at that. So yeah, right in here, now we have a little bit of yellow in there. So that's working out a little bit better for me. Here's the other thing that I don't like. When it overlays a sky, it overlays everything else over the bottom part as well. Now, in some cases, that might be good to give you a tonal or color feel from the sky to your image. But in this case, I really don't like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to Edit Mask and grab a brush, and I am going to swap it over to Erase. And I'm going to start erasing the upper line of the area that I want to remove from my image, and you'll notice it's starting to pull that sky overlay or sky replacement out of there. And if you look up here, up by sky replacement, you start to see the mask. You see that black line going across there. Well, I'm going to start removing everything below that black line. I'm going to boost my brush up here and get a big wide brush and remove all of that. See, now you'll notice all my original lighting is coming back in by removing that sky that overlaid over my whole image. I'm not going to take away from the building because I don't want that building to be a focal point, and maybe later on this building, I may even crop that out or stamp it out of there to make this photo look a little bit better. I'm going to keep an eye up here on my mask and see that I don't have any white areas in my masking that I want to be rid of. Okay, that looks pretty good. I like that. So we have our sky in there, and I'm gonna, I think I'm gonna bump up the exposure a little bit just because I want it a little bit brighter, maybe around 15. Maybe give me a little bit more of what I want. Okay, that for right now is my sky replacement. Okay, we've got our sky in there and it's looking pretty good, but you'll notice by replacing the sky, it kind of gave an overall drab feeling on the image. It kind of darkened it up. It gave the illusion of being a little bit darker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the essentials, and I'm going to go back to the light portion of essentials, and I'm going to take a look at what I've got. I am at 60 with my shadows, so I'm actually going to bring those up probably to around 70, which gave me a little bit more. I'm going to drop into my advanced settings, and I'm going to bring my mids up just a little bit more. That's looking a little bit better. We're adding a little blues in there, though. I'm not really liking that our blue is coming through. I'm going to jump down here, and I might push up, remove the cast just a little bit there. What else I might do is I might go into my cyans, and I might bring the saturation of that down just a little bit. And you'll notice on the battle wagon over here, we lost quite a bit of the cyans, maybe a little bit too much. So I'm going to push that back up just a little. That's looking a little bit better. I'm going to toggle this on and off and see where we stand. Yeah, see, that pops out quite a bit better, and I like that a lot more. So we are good there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the Pro area. Why am I going to the Pro area? If you remember earlier, I said that I wanted to make sure my boats stand out in this image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to Dodge and Burn. I'm going to select Start Painting, but my first thing I'm going to look at is my strength. You can see right up here, strength, and it's at 50%. That's going to be a little too much. It's going to be obnoxious. So I'm going to drop that 50% down to about 25, and I'm going to start painting. I'm going to start painting my boats with the Dodge tool. And as you notice here, with a few other adjustments that I've made, now we're starting to see more detail in these boats, which is great. So I'm bringing the brightness of these boats back out a little bit, and also the reflection. I want to see the reflection in this a little bit more. So we're going to paint those a little bit. I'm going to go around all my boats, all my reflections, and make sure that they kind of pop. You know, I want them to stand out. So we're going to jump in, and I might even hit this building back here too. This building needs to pop a little bit. That'll make this image a little bit better. This right here is really hot, so I'm not going to go over it, but I'm going to go over the shadow parts of this boat to make it stand out a little bit more, and its reflection a little bit. Over here, remember, this is really hot, so I'm only going to hit the shadowed portions. I don't want them to be so dark. I'm going to hit my reflection on this boat. There we go. That's looking a little bit better. And over here on the dock, I'm going to hit these highlighted portions of the dock because I want them to stand out a little bit too in the overall scheme of everything. One other thing that as I'm over here painting this that I'm noticing, I've got some lanterns or lighting over here that might look okay if I turn them on. And I'll show you how to do that here in a second as well. So make sure that I've got my painting all done here, and we're going to toggle it on and off and take a look at it. You know, really quick, before I do that, I'm going to boost this up to 50, and I'm going to hit these windows a little bit back here and lighten these windows up. Make them pop just a little bit. All right. Yeah, that's not too bad. I'm kind of liking that. Now let's toggle that on and off. So yeah, we're boosting that up quite a bit. I like that. Okay. I'm going to come down into my color enhancer, and overall, I want a little bit of warmth in here. You'll notice all of this through here got a little bit warmer. I'm going to bump you up just a hair. Yeah, see my greens got a little bit warmer. Clouds got a little warmer. So yeah, it's getting to where I want it. Now, we are going to move on to the next and one of the biggest levels to make this look realistic. We're going to add some reflection into the water, and we're also going to turn the lights on the dock over here. Okay, now we are going to do the reflection in the water and turning on the lights over here on the dock. And they both require the same process. So let's start with reflection of the sky. We are going to go up here to our layers and we're going to add a new image layer. Okay? Now, this is the image that I used for my sky. So I'm going to grab it, go in here and grab it and open it. Once it adds in the new image, I'm going to go into Layer Transform. First thing is I'm going to flip it vertically. I'm going to bring it down just a bit because I know my skyline is right in that area. And I'm going to click OK. Now here's the problem. All we see is our new layer, is our new image, right? So what do we got to do? Well, we got to go in here to our layer mask, and I'm going to start brushing out what I don't want. And I'm going to have to go farther than I want to in my mask just because I just can't see everything, right? So I'm going to go a little bit farther than I want, like over here, but I'll bring that back in just a minute. I'm going to go a little bit farther than I want over here, but I'm going to make sure that I get rid of everything that I don't want. You know, right down here to the water line, because really the only areas that we're going to be reflecting in is the water, right? So let's get rid of everything we don't like. Okay, I think we're getting there. I think we about got it. I'm looking up at my mask up here, making sure that everything is taken out. I might even bring my brush up to a bigger size and just go over it once really quick to make sure. Oh yeah, see, there was a spot right up in here that I did not notice. Okay, so now we're starting to get where we want it to be, right? So I'm going to go back in. Now I've got the plus instead of the minus, and I'm going to add it back into areas that aren't touching the boat, that are only touching the water, and paint my image back in, right? But once again, only the places where it's going to reflect. Okay, how's that looking? That's starting to get there, right? Okay, over here I got to be real careful. I think I'm actually going to wipe that out a little bit through here because we're really not going to see that. I'm going to bring that in. Okay, doesn't really look realistic, does it? That's where we have to come up here and we have to look at our blending mode. Now, in most cases, overlay is going to be the way to look at this. Yeah, see, now we're getting a reflection of our sky. That's looking quite a bit better. But if you remember right, there's one other thing we did to our original sky. Our lighting is from left to right, right? So I forgot. So we come up here and we hit Layer Transform. I already flipped it vertically. Well, I got to flip it horizontally so it matches. So I'm going to come up here to the horizontal flip. It's looking quite a bit better. The only thing that I find wrong with it is my color. I'm going to bump it up just like I bumped up the original. Go up to about 20 up there. I'm going to go down in here to our Pro and go to the color enhancer, and I'm going to warm it up a little bit so it mimics my original sky. It's getting there a little bit, right? The one thing I do find that as I look at the clouds in the water is they might be a little too harsh, might be a little too bright. So I'm going to have to adjust that. I'm going to have to come back here to lighting, and I'm going to bring the highlights down a little bit. I'm going to bring my shadows down just a little bit to make it look more realistic. The other thing that I'm going to do in layers is my image opacity. That is just a little too much for a reflection. To make it look a little bit more realistic, I'm going to bring it down to about 70 and see how that looks. There. I think we're pretty close. All right. Let's move on to turning on the lights. And as you see over here, here's the light post that we were talking about earlier. We want to turn on the lighting. Now we're going to use the same basic principles as we did to do our reflection layer. We have to make a new layer. But instead of making a new image layer, which we did in the reflection, we're going to make a new adjustment layer. Now you're going to see why an adjustment layer in just a moment here. I'm going to come over to my essentials in my adjustment layer, and I'm going to go to light, and I'm going to go to my exposure, and I'm going to blast it. I'm going to push it up to like 3 or more, and it's going to make everything look awful. Here we go, 3. That just looks awful. That's terrible. Look at all the noise over here. Remember all that noise that I was talking to you about? We got rid of most of it, but not all of it. Anyway, so we are going to make these lights look like they're realistic, like they're turned on. So we're going to come over here to edit, or excuse me, not their edit mask. We're going to go to our layer, and we're going to edit the overall mask of this layer. And I'm going to get my brush. I'm going to zoom into this area, and it won't start my mask until I click add. So I'm going to drop my brush down just a little bit. I'm going to click once there. There we go. Yep. There we go. We're turning our lights on one at a time here. And what we're going to do is I'm going to come up just a little bit bigger on a second click, and I'm going to give them a little glow. There we go. And now I'm going to fit to screen, and you can see my lights over here. They look fairly realistic. They might be a little bit bright for the kind of day we have out here, and even in the shadow they might be a little unrealistic. So what we can do is we can go to the adjustment amount layer, and let's bring it down to like 70 and take a look at what we've got. So if we're looking at our overall scheme of everything and we're looking at the shadows, that doesn't look too bad. I might even bring it down just a little bit more for realism. Let's try 60 and see how that works. Might be a little much. Let's split the difference. Let's go 65. That looks good. All right. We've got all our layers in there. We've got, and you'll notice I'm going to click on our reflection layer, and that's going to shut off our light layer. So the lights got shut off on us. Here is our reflection layer. We got that all taken care of and in place. And I'm going to click on that light adjustment layer up there, and it's going to turn our lights on. That looks good. Let's look our before and after. Before, after. Not too bad. And it's actually a passable photo. Now, earlier I talked about we may get rid of this because it's a little distracting, and we still might here. We're going to look at an overall before and after. And I do believe I'm going to crop this image. I'm going to take out this building over here. I just don't like it. So I'm going to bring that in. It makes me a little square, so I'm going to bring in my bottom line just a little bit. There we go, and click my done. I'm liking that. It looks really good. I like this photo. So I hope you learned a lot on this. I hope that you can use this in some of your photos. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. Or if you'd like to see future videos of something different in Luminar 4, don't hesitate to ask me there. I'm Dustin Breau. Y'all have a great day.